Picture this. You are sitting at like table 14 at a wedding reception. You've just finished your slice of dry fondant-covered cake.
Oh, I know that cake. We all know that cake.
Right. And the best man's speech finally wrapped up after rambling for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And the DJ is desperately trying to coax people out of their chairs.
Usually with the exact same playlist you've heard at the last half dozen weddings you've attended.
Exactly. You know the drill. It's the standard slow dances, the highly engineered bouquet toss, the polite applause. But we all love celebrating a couple, right? But there is a very rigid, almost unbreakable script to how these receptions usually play out.
It definitely becomes a formula. And, the couple finds comfort in that predictability because planning a wedding is stressful enough.
Oh, for sure.
But as a guest, you hit that post-dinner slump. You find yourself subtly checking your watch, just waiting for that one jolt of unscripted, chaotic energy to wake the room back up.
Well, that craving for chaos is exactly what we are tapping into today for our deep dive. We are looking at a highly specific, honestly bizarre tradition that completely detonates that predictable wedding mold.
It really does. It takes a formal reception and turns it into a full-blown interactive spectacle.
Yeah, it is known as the sock dance for unmarried siblings, and it's a staple in certain Canadian families. Specifically, we've got this great source document detailing the tradition.
And on the surface, it sounds like an inside joke that accidentally became mandatory for the family.
Totally. But our mission today is to uncover exactly what this ritual is, decode the surprisingly deep cultural symbolism hidden beneath its goofy exterior, and figure out how modern couples are completely reinventing it for the viral internet era.
Because it is absolutely taking over social media right now.
It is. The craziest part of all this is that it's bleeding out of French-Canadian basements and taking over timelines across the internet. But before we get into the psychology of its digital fame, you really need a clear picture of the sheer physical absurdity happening on this dance floor.
Yeah, if you've never been to a wedding that does this, it is an absolute scene.
I can only imagine. So how does it actually work?
Well, the mechanics are incredibly specific, and they are deeply rooted in French-Canadian heritage. Imagine the reception is humming along, people are sipping drinks, making small talk.
The usual stuff.
Right. Suddenly, the DJ cuts the standard music. The MC gets on the mic and calls all the unmarried brothers and sisters of the newlyweds to the absolute center of the dance floor.
And they don't just walk out there in their tailored suits and expensive bridesmaid dresses and start doing a standard waltz, do they?
Oh, definitely not. They're required to put on socks.
Socks at a formal wedding.
Yep. And we are talking silly, drastically mismatched, aggressively oversized, or neon-colored socks.
Wow. So you've got, like, the groom's single brother dressed to the nines, but he's kicking around in giant, fuzzy cartoon socks.
Exactly. And while these siblings are forced to dance to an upbeat, high-energy track, the rest of the wedding guests do not just stand around and watch.
They get involved.
Oh, they physically close in on the dance floor. They form a tight circle, cheering, clapping, and then, this is the best part, they start tossing money onto the floor at the dancing siblings.
Okay, let's unpack this because that is wild. Think about the pure visual contrast here. It is the equivalent of an interactive sporting halftime show right in the middle of a black tie event.
That is a great way to put it.
Right. Like, instead of bringing out professional athletes or dancers, the main event is your sister in an evening gown and bright red oversized socks doing a jig while your great aunt hurls $5 bills at her feet. It's brilliant, but the optics are completely absurd.
What's fascinating here is how it dynamically shifts the typical wedding spotlight. Think about it. Every single element of a wedding, from the floral arrangements to the first dance, is hyper-focused on the newlyweds.
Yeah, they're the undisputed center of gravity.
Exactly. But the sock dance forces a temporary yet dramatic pivot. For 3 or 4 minutes, the community physically turns its back on the couple and focuses entirely on the broader family structure.
I love that aspect of it, but I have a real problem with the premise here.
Oh, what's that?
Well, as someone who has been single at plenty of weddings, this sounds like an absolute nightmare. Being unattached at a wedding is already a well-documented cultural trope.
Oh, yeah. The dreaded singles table?
Exactly. You get banished to the singles table, you field intrusive questions from relatives about your dating life, dragging these specific people into the center of the room and making them dance for cash. It feels like it crosses the line from playful into public mockery.
I completely get why you would think that, but I would argue that's exactly why the socks are mandatory.
The socks save it.
Yeah, the tradition intrinsically understands the potential for embarrassment, and it engineers a psychological bypass.
Mhm.
The inherent silliness of the socks diffuses the social tension.
Huh. I guess it's hard to be embarrassed when you look ridiculous on purpose.
Right. If you pull a single person onto the floor in their formal wear and make them dance, they feel exposed, they feel judged. But the moment you put them in giant, fuzzy maple leaf socks, it becomes impossible to take the situation seriously.
So it's like an ego shield. You can't be brooding over your relationship status when you look like a cartoon character.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it introduces a physical element of humility and humor. It removes any lingering sense of pity or awkwardness and replaces it with pure playfulness.
That makes a lot of sense.
It symbolizes a collective family belief that everyone will eventually find love and future happiness on their own timeline. It is the family's way of saying, we acknowledge your status, but we're doing it with joy, not judgment.
And it isn't just about the emotional support, right? There is
Yeah.
a very literal financial support mechanism built into this.
Oh, the cash is very real.
Yeah, the cash hitting the floor isn't monopoly money. It's a tangible, communal contribution. Depending on the specific family's variation of the custom, the money thrown by the guests gets swept up and usually goes toward the newlyweds' honeymoon fund or helps offset the wedding expenses.
Or, in one of the more fascinating variations we found in the source, the money acts as a seed fund for the dancing siblings themselves.
Wait, for really?
Yeah, it goes toward their future weddings. So the guests are essentially pre-funding a celebration for the single siblings.
That is hilarious. You're out there dancing in goofy socks to build your own future wedding treasury. It is basically a financial safety net disguised as a chaotic party game.
It really is. It pulls all the guests into the active role of supporting the next generation of the family, rather than just passively watching two people cut a cake.
Which is so much more engaging.
It creates a physical manifestation of communal support. Handing a couple a sealed envelope with a check in it is polite, but it's sterile.
Yeah, nobody remembers the envelope.
Exactly. But throwing bills onto a dance floor while screaming and laughing alongside 50 other family members, that creates a visceral, shared memory. It bonds the room together.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because that perfectly explains the leap this tradition has made from a localized cultural custom to an international internet phenomenon.
Yes, the social media aspect is huge.
Because this isn't just a niche regional thing anymore. It is a highly searched, viral trend across platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube.
Yeah.
You have videos of these dances racking up millions of views under titles like, funniest wedding reception moments ever.
And that explosion in popularity speaks volumes about what modern internet audiences actually value.
What do you mean?
Well, for the past decade, the wedding industry has been dominated by highly curated, hyper-aesthetic content. Drone shots of mountaintop vows, perfectly choreographed first dances that look like a music video.
Right, everything polished to absolute perfection.
Exactly, but digital audiences are experiencing severe aesthetic fatigue.
Oh, I feel that. It's exhausting to look at after a while. It all starts to blur together into one endless Pinterest board.
Yes. What people crave now is authenticity. They want the vulnerability gap.
The vulnerability gap.
Yeah, a beautifully choreographed waltz is impressive, but it's closed off. You just watch it. But a brother in a tuxedo and neon socks desperately trying to catch flying dollar bills while slipping on a slick dance floor,
That is amazing.
that is human. It is unpolished joy. The vulnerability gap is the space between the formal setting of a wedding and the ridiculous reality of the family dynamics. That genuine emotion is what compels someone to hit the share button.
Wow, that is so true. And industry brands are catching on to this too. Companies like Weddizer are actively recommending these types of disruptive, highly interactive traditions to couples to increase guest engagement.
It isn't just a fun idea anymore. It's becoming a strategic choice for wedding planners.
Yeah, they know that if you want your reception to be memorable, and, let's be honest, if you want it to look great online, you need to manufacture a moment where the guests become the entertainment.
It's a fascinating evolution of culture. A tradition born out of intimate, localized French-Canadian family humor has transitioned into a highly recommended piece of modern wedding entertainment, actively curated to produce viral engagement.
But the reason it works, and the reason it doesn't feel entirely hollow and manufactured is because its roots are still firmly grounded in genuine family dynamics.
Exactly. And people aren't just copy-pasting the old tradition either. Given its massive popularity, modern couples are fiercely customizing the logistics of the sock dance to fit their specific vibe.
And the adaptation always starts with the wardrobe, right? The socks are the absolute star of the show.
They really are. The classic choice is still the maple leaf pattern, which pays homage to those French-Canadian origins. But couples are treating the socks as a canvas for inside jokes.
I've seen some crazy ones online.
Oh yeah, you see neon colors, heavily branded superhero socks, and holiday themes. Personalization is a massive trend right now. Couples are ordering custom-printed socks featuring the wedding date, or even featuring tiled photos of the bride and groom's faces.
That is so funny. One logistical tip from the sources that genuinely made me laugh is the idea of coordinating these ridiculous socks with the actual wedding color palette.
Oh, I love that.
So you have this utterly chaotic moment on the dance floor, but the neon pink of the oversized socks technically matches the subtle blush tones of the floral arrangements. It's just an unhinged level of wedding planning detail.
It takes a lot of dedication to match your chaos to your centerpieces.
It really does. I have to ask you, the listener, right now, if you were pulled onto a dance floor in front of 200 people and forced to do this, what socks are you choosing?
That is a tough question.
Because I would absolutely lean into maximum visual confusion. If it's a highly formal outdoor summer wedding in the countryside, I am wearing massive, thick, light-up reindeer holiday socks. Just completely shatter the seasonal illusion.
If you want to guarantee you end up in the viral highlight reel, the light-up reindeer socks will definitely do the trick.
100%.
But pulling this off requires more than just the right footwear. The logistics of managing the room are critical, and that responsibility falls heavily on the DJ or the MC.
That makes sense, because if the crowd doesn't understand what's happening, you just have three siblings dancing awkwardly in silence while people stare at them.
Exactly. The energy of the room entirely dictates the success of the custom. The DJ cannot just press play on an upbeat pop or folk track. They have to actively engineer the crowd's energy.
So they have to be an energetic host, not just a human jukebox.
You're right. They have to briefly explain the premise to the guests who might be totally unfamiliar with the tradition, and then explicitly give them permission to break the formal rules of the evening. They have to invite the crowd to step onto the floor, to cheer loudly, and to throw their money.
It requires the crowd to fully buy into the premise. And what I love is how that premise is actively expanding today. Couples are taking the core mechanics and warping them to fit different family structures.
What kind of variations are we seeing?
For instance, some weddings have introduced the couple sock dance. So instead of isolating just the single brothers and sisters, they bring both the married and unmarried siblings out onto the floor together.
Oh, that shifts the dynamic